Good evening, Fiji, and welcome to For the Record. Now, this is a new current affairs program that not only highlights issues pertinent to our community, but we will also meet the people behind the decisions that may impact the course of our daily lives. An issue that has been widely reported in our news: structural fires and safety standards. Now, with us this evening is the Chief Executive Officer of the National Fire Authority, Mr. John O'Connor. Mula vinaka, and welcome to the show.
Good evening to you, Pedeli, Bulavinaka, and firstly on behalf of the team at the National Fire Authority, I would like to thank FBC for always advocating and supporting NFA in the message of fire safety. And I would like to personally thank you for the invite to be the second guest in your program For the Record.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Now, as the Chief Executive Officer for almost 2 years, what is your vision for the National Fire Authority?
Yeah, I joined the National Fire Authority on the 1st of April 2012. So at the end of this month, I'll be with the authority for 1 year, 6 months. When deciding to come over to the National Fire Authority, I believed strongly that I could make a difference. And one of the long-term visions I had for National Fire Authority is for us to be able to build a professional, very efficient, very effective organization that provides fire and emergency services that meets or exceeds the expectation of our customers. That's the long-term vision we have. It's a huge challenge. Understanding where we are to get to that vision, there's huge challenges along the way, but I'm confident with the changes that we are currently undertaking and with the support of the board and the government, we will be able to achieve that milestone, and more importantly with the support of the team at the National Fire Authority.
Okay, 95 cases last year, and now on to 83 reported structural fires this year. Now, you had a target of about 50 structural fires that you hoped to limit it to. Now, what do you think is, why has this surpassed your target of 50?
Yeah, usually at the end of every year, our Minister of Local Government usually offers a challenge to the National Fire Authority. And in the last 2 years, in 2011, we had 216 property and structural fires. And he issued a challenge for us to reduce it by 50%. We achieved that one. And at the end of last year, he had issued us a challenge that while we had 95 structural fires, he issued a challenge that for us to try and reduce the number of property fires to 50 this year. That's a challenge that we had accepted at the start of the year. If you compare the number of structural fires we attended last year, we attended to 95 structural fires. As a result of that 95 structural fires, there were 12 fire deaths. And out of the 12 fire deaths, there were 7 children deaths. 7 children died as a result of property fires. This year, we have had 83 property fires. There's 6 deaths, but on all the deaths so far that has resulted as an outcome of a fire has been adults. And more importantly, most of the deaths this year have been, what can I say, sort of intentional.
So this is what you think, that most of the cases are due to this? Or is it negligence, or is there a family dispute?
Yeah, and the 5 deaths this year have been, like I said, intentionally caused where there have been family disputes. 6, and there's a fight, and either the party locked one of them in the house and then set property to the fire. We had a case in Ba where the family, wife and husband, had an argument. The husband then locked himself in the house and poured kerosene.
So how does National Fire Authority do? Do you leave it to the police, or does NFA have something?
Yeah, we conduct joint investigations, and then the police determine whether there could be offences committed, and then they usually lay proper charges. But I think when you compare the causes of the fire last year, although we've had 85 now, last year most of the fires were we can attribute to negligent.
Okay.
Candles, mosquito coils.
But there's been so much awareness by NFA.
Yeah, you can understand. Like when accepting our target usually set to us by Minster, we fully understand that the starting of the fires is beyond our control. Therefore, in terms of our strategies, community awareness, we had to vigorously conduct.
I hear that you're going to churches now.
Yeah, we've even ended up to churches and communicating our fire safety awareness. We were working with Water Authority, and they were doing their public awareness. This is in church. But I find it a good opportunity because all the family members are in church at that time.
Right.
And it's a good opportunity for us to share the message.
What about other religions?
Yeah, all. We've been to majority of all the religions. The Christians, we've been to events organized by the Saba and all the other religious groups, and even to schools. When we accepted the challenge, we set strategies and targets for each station. So each station has a number of schools to visit.
So all across the country?
All across the country. We are going door to door. In the evenings, we are visiting door to door. We are going to communities and settlements. Unfortunately, sometimes our teams are usually not received with positive, not welcome.
How so?
We've been to some houses. And we've knocked at the doors, and usually the owner of or the person living in the property usually tell us, you go and talk to the landlord. Then we usually try and explain to him that the landlord, it's not only the landlord's responsibility to ensure fire safety.
Is that quite now, is there an increase in that sort of answers that you're
getting? Yeah, there are quite a few.
Could that be a concern?
To me, in terms of looking at the attitude of fire safety, when you look at a cyclone, we get warnings. When you look at floodings, we get warnings. But when there's a fire, there's no warning.
Okay. I'll have to cut you short there, sir. We're headed for a short break, but we'll be right back with the Chief Executive Officer of NFA right after this short break. Welcome back to For the Record, and we're speaking with the CEO of National Fire Authority. Now, just before the break, we were headed our discussion towards, well, comparing it with the cyclone season just around the corner, or we're already into it. Now, Mr. O'Connor, what is the role of NFA at this time?
Yeah, the point I was trying to drive before the break was, we all take cyclone warnings seriously. We take flood warnings when they very seriously. But we fail to realize that to the National Fire Authority, when we go to community awareness, the important point that we stress to members of the community is that we must regard fire as one of the most devastating hazards. Because when a fire happens in your property, the first thing, you will not have any warning. And secondly, there will be no time for you to try and save your households and so forth. So the priority only is to try and save your lives. And but this, when a fire doesn't happen to you, you will not regard it as that important. So for us, that's the message we are trying to drive: a total change of attitude in amongst our communities. We must all start recognizing that fire is one of the most devastating hazards. And why is it important? Is because we all work with the sources of fire every day at home. We cook, we use electrical appliances. Some of us use mosquito coil, some of us use candles, some of us have prayer deers. With all this around, the possibility of a fire happening in your house is always very high. And then we need to be extra careful. And that's why I'm saying that we need to start taking fire safety seriously from at our individual homes, in communities, in churches, in schools, because the chance of it happening is a reality.
You mentioned schools. Now, yes, there's a lot of awareness at schools, but what about the standards of fire safety equipment in the schools? Is there enough, or is there a constant check with these schools?
Yeah, we are currently, we had a few the school fires, the two Provident and one the QVS one, and likewise the one in Singatoka Methodist.
Yes.
And in terms of strategies, while we were focusing on awareness and everything, now we realize that school is one also of a major risk, and we are currently working with the Ministry of Education. We've in the recent few months we've conducted training for teachers around Fiji.
Had they been trained before?
I'm really not sure, but according to my records, this is one of the first times that we are venturing into this training of teachers, so that firstly they know how to safely evacuate the children, and also we're planning to have joint inspections with the Ministry of Education and setting a minimum list of equipment that they need to have depending on the size of the school.
Well, that's quite alarming, since these teachers and the students are there most of the times during the weekdays or during school terms. Is there a more aggressive, at least push from NFA to work much closer with the Ministry of Education?
Oh yeah, we've had meetings with the Ministry of Education in all our divisions, and the target, the priority is to conduct inspections and formulate basic fire safety equipment that should be present in all the schools, just in case of the safety, keeping in mind the safety of the children. But in those two property fires, for example, in the one in QVS, we were really pleased with the response by the teachers. They had evacuated the children safely to a safe spot, and I believe the teachers there had already undergone the training.
Well, with all that in mind, yes, they evacuated the students, but they are also these students' property, school books, and the cost of all this mount up. Wouldn't you think that they'll be more aggressive? How fast can you think? What do you think that NFA can get these proper fire safety materials, say fire extinguishers? Are there enough in schools?
Yeah, that's what we are currently doing. We are instructed our teams in the field to conduct inspections with the Education Ministry, at least to know that there's some basic firefighting to assist, especially when we consider schools that are far away from the nearest fire station. That's the target areas that we are focusing on now.
Boarding schools?
Boarding and mainly the ones that are located far away from fire response. For example, as a result of the QVS fire, to improve our efficiency and response, because there's so few secondary schools there, we've decided, the board has decided that we need to set up a temporary fire station in Korho, and we are working on that arrangement. Hopefully before the end of the year we should set up that station.
What everyone wants to know is how fast, how long will all this take? There'll be meetings, but what is the time when you can safely say these checks will be in place?
Yeah, we currently, in terms of our inspections, the team have already commenced the inspections, inspection of all the businesses around the area, and also including the schools. And hopefully by the end of the year, we should have a proper idea of what needs to be equipment that needs to be installed in schools, and then come back to the Ministry of Education and discuss with them.
Well, back to the businesses, okay? There's around about the period where safety standards, because licenses of businesses start being renewed around about this time, October to April next year. Now, what about the buildings of businesses? Are they, well, as you look at the assessment by NFA, are they really up to the par? Are they up to the standards?
Yeah, in terms of the inspections that we usually, our inspections are aligned with the business renewals of the business, and to assist the businesses, what we are currently doing is working with the municipalities. We hope to come next month have fire officers stationed at the town councils, so that the businessman doesn't run around.
That's right. Now, we always hear about shortcuts, Now, does NFA keep a record also?
Yeah, we have all the records, and at the moment we are currently conducting door-to-door inspections. There are minimum requirements that each business has to comply with.
Would you be able to identify them?
Yeah, during the initial inspection, all our inspectors are trained to identify compliance and non-compliance.
Some businesses that are not complying?
Yeah, there are some. We've come across some that are non-compliant. Usually what we do to assist the business, we work out a compliance plan and give them time, and then we come back a few days or weeks. And in most of the cases, in small businesses, the business owners are so eager to comply. If we advise them to install a fire extinguisher, they usually do it the same day or the next day. Or if we advise them to get a fire blanket, they usually do it immediately. And then once they comply, then we issue fire compliance.
Thank you very much, Mr. O'Connor. We'll talk more about the compliance and also the safety or equipment, fire safety equipment, right after this short break. You're back on For the Record, and we continue our discussion on fire safety standards. Now, the equipment, fire extinguishers, do we have the proper standards here in Fiji?
Yeah, the fire equipments that we have in Fiji mainly comply with Australian and New Zealand standard. But recently we have noted the increase of fire extinguishers from other markets. And we usually for those who are purchasing or bringing this, we usually ask them to provide us with testing certification that the equipments comply with standards that are recognized as per our building code. But we continue to receive complaints from some of the customers that they bought a fire extinguisher, and sometimes the fire extinguishers are defective, and we usually investigate those.
Okay, what about the buses? Do they have properly equipped fire extinguishers in their buses?
Yeah, recently after those bus fires, the NFA police have been and LT engaged in a joint operation whereby we check all the buses and check the fire extinguishers that are installed with them.
So are you checking before the buses are put on the roads? Or
yeah, this as part of the joint operation, we usually stop the buses on the road and then check. And in some cases, we found that there were fire extinguishers that have not been serviced. In some buses, we saw fire extinguishers which we believe didn't meet the need, the size, very small fire extinguishers. But out of that joint operation, LTA, I believe, is putting together a standard that needs to be complied with by all the buses.
Now, what about when the buses are being put together? And do you think that, we always say prevention is better than an actual incident? What about when the buses are being put together? Does NFA have a role, apart from LTA doing the checks? You are the authority over fires. Shouldn't you be involved a little bit more?
At the moment, in terms of NFA responsibility to buses, our main responsibility is to respond when there's a bus fire. In terms of the enforcement of the act and so forth, it relies with the LTA and with the police. We don't have any such power, but we are very grateful to LTA and the police for involving us in terms of
you mentioned response. National Fire Authority also is involved in responding to accidents and other incidents, just besides fire. Now, how is that? You're working with the police on this?
Yeah, in terms of responding to road accidents, that responsibility is now with the National Fire Authority. We have rescue trucks and rescue equipment that allow us to respond and effectively rescue equipment that are trapped in the road. That's one of the new functions that the NFA has now undertaken apart from firefighting. That's why I'm saying one of the challenges is building capacity, because our role is expanding.
Yes.
And we have to keep abreast with terms of training and development.
I was going to ask, do you have enough manpower?
In terms of manpower, at the moment, we believe we have enough manpower to respond effectively to these types of calls. But as development grows, we need to consider and grow with development.
Well, with that too, there's also the Building Code of Fiji that NFA is involved with. Now, do you think this code is sufficient?
Currently, at the moment, in terms of when we inspect buildings and properties and everything, the current building code is the main guiding document. But I believe the Ministry of Health has a committee that's reviewing the building code. As you're aware, there's developments in technology and so forth, improvements in building material, and that's why I think there's a review of the building code to keep us abreast with developments and align the requirements to developments.
Okay, you mentioned that NFA's role is now growing. What about the fire safety standards in Fiji and the whole involvement of the review of the legislature that looks after this fire safety?
Yeah, first thing, one of the important reasons why we need to review the legislation is firstly, currently, if we follow the legislation strictly, the legislation only empowers the National Fire Authority to firstly respond to fire calls within the fire boundary. If there's a fire call outside the fire boundaries, according to the current legislation, that's NFA is not in the responsibility. But
do you want that change?
No, yeah, we want change, yeah, because we want to align our services to development, government development plans and guidelines. So that's one of the reasons for the review of the legislation. Secondly, the current legislation only focuses more on firefighting. The other roles like ambulance services and everything, it's a bit restrictive in the current legislation. So that's why they need to review so that we can empower our officers and protect them in terms of the provision of such service.
Are you happy with the work that you're doing with the police and the various other departments?
Yeah, I think in terms of firefighting authority and trends globally, we have to work in close collaboration with other service providers, the police, the Land Transport Authority, MCF in terms of responding to boats parked in the berths and so forth.
Now, a lot of investigations, and this is my final question, a lot of investigations have been put down to, fire investigations have been put down to electrical fault. Now, what I'm going to ask you is, why are we having too many electrical faults with buildings, and are our electricians doing, is it an indication that they're not doing their jobs properly?
Usually, when you look at fires that are associated with look at the fire trends, last year, like I explained earlier, majority of the 95 structural fires could be attributed to our carelessness, or maybe negligence in a sense. And then we had arson, possible arson cases, and then we had electrical. This year, the major cause of the fire at the moment, when we analyze these 83 fires, is arson, where there's...
I want to ask you to quickly
okay.
We're just running out of time.
Yeah, arson and then electrical. And usually, when you look at the trend of fires, usually the property fires happen mainly in communities.
So you think it's just that we're a little bit, our attitude needs to change here in Fiji?
Yeah, I think so.
We're too negligent.
Fire safety is not at least an important issue in our families, and I think that needs to change. We start to...
So we need change in Fiji.
We need change in attitude and mindset of people amongst our communities towards fire safety.
Thank you very much, Mr. O'Connor. And thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for being with us this evening. If you wish to send us your comments and questions regarding the show, please do so at fortherecord@fbc.com.fj. Join us again next week for another discussion on issues pertinent to all Fijians. Good night, Fiji.
Thank you.